What's up, passionate Pokemon players? I'm Ryan, and we're here for another episode of the Hawks Pokemon Nest. We've got an interesting deck for you all today that's kind of using old school Pokemon with Blissey, which is from Chansey. Blissey comes in, I think, what, Gen 2? So kind of getting there, but we're also getting in there some of the newer stuff in there, which is Hydreigon, right? So I like to call this deck Blissful and Gone. You'll be blissful while your opponent is gone. So we're going to get through this deck. I'm going to give you the cards in the deck, the strengths, weaknesses, and strategies in terms of how to play it. Then we'll go through some of the other cards that you may want to consider swapping in or out. So let's jump into it. First off, let's have a look at the nice, pretty Hydreigon. I just went with the basic one. I think I have an alt art in there, but we're not gonna. I don't have 4 of them, so you know, we'll look at this. It looks pretty cool. I think it's one of the better looking Terras. They're kind of hit and miss, right? So anyway, this deck kind of goes mostly around him with our Blissey, kind of as a good tag team here. Right, so let's look at the Hydreigon, which has Crashing Headbutt. Discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. So that one's a relatively easy attack to get out there for 200. Just needs 2 energies, one of which has to be a dark energy. Now what we really want to do here is use Obsidian though, right? So it's going to hit for 130 and then also deal 130 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. This one is much tougher to get out, but we are helped in getting it out a little bit by some of the other cards that we're playing in this deck. But we'll start with the Pokemon, so let's kind of go up here from the top. Alright, and we'll go with the Deino or Deino. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. I think it's Deino, right? Because he's got the E right here. Okay, so Deino, I went with this one from the, what is it, SSP? Is it Surging Sparks? Yeah, with Stomp Off. I like Stomp Off to discard 1 card from your deck. We are going to be using sometimes Crashing Headbutt, so it gives a little bit of disruption to this deck, kind of sneakily. It does have 70 HP and 1 retreat cost. And then I did include 2 of these Zweilous, I don't even know how to pronounce this one either, but Find a Friend is what I've got him in. So we kind of want the option of being able to evolve him, and we will see in there in terms of the A spec of why I have him in there, which is going to help. And then Find a Friend lets us search our deck for 2 Pokemon and then shuffle. And then you can't use Headbutt Bounce. I've never used it. Don't really want to do that. You want to just find a friend, and then if he gets KO'd, he gets KO'd if you really get stuck in the active with his wireless, right? And then we talked about him. Okay, so next up, you know, really, I've been like just doing my best out here, right? I've been doing my best to find a way to play this Chansey with its lucky bonus, right? So if you took this Pokemon as a face-down prize card during your turn, and your bench isn't full, you put this, you could put it onto your bench, flip the coin of heads, take another prize card. In a nutshell, I think that's kind of what they were saying here, right? Okay, so not bad, right? That's pretty cool. It's the sad part about this is I just keep drawing all 4 of them. Like, I don't know, maybe one day I'll get them on the bench, but at least in this case, it's not completely useless because then we have Blissey EX, which is a pretty solid card overall that fits in this deck for a number of reasons. One, it is a big body out there. It does have 300 HP for a stage 1, is pretty ridiculous. So you're able to just kind of throw it out there and let it hang out while we're getting our Hydreigon ready, right? He does need time to charge up. And then he also has Happy Switch. Once during your turn, you may move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another Pokemon. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility, right? So sometimes you're even going to use, with that same ability, Return. Return deals 180 damage, and then you draw until you have 6 cards in hand. So it does take 3, but then let's say, you know, you need a turn to get ready. Maybe you'll switch that energy to Blissey to give it 3, and then you're going to go ahead and attack, and then next turn, hopefully it's not one-shotted in a way, or maybe it has damage. Next turn you can move that energy back to another Pokemon if you need to, perhaps the Hydreigon. So this one's pretty cool. The return comes in handy. It's not extremely challenging to get it to the 3, but a lot of times you won't. But really the Happy Switch is what makes it nice, and it lets you kind of spread out some energy as we're loading up, because our opponent's going to target. If you're trying to throw 4 and not have a backup plan for energy on one of your Deino or Zweilous before we get their opponent bosses up. It's devastating. So it helps you to spread out a little bit, and then, you know, you can kind of choose the one that your opponent doesn't go after. That's at least how I go. Now, it took me a while. It took me a long while to figure out like what type of draw engine was going to work here, and I'm also really doing my best not to play any cards that are rotating out, because rotation is imminent. So I went with Dunsparce and Dudunsparce for that, right? So with this Dunsparce, another find a friend that lets us search for Pokemon and reveal it. We're not going to ever want to use Bite. Please don't load your Dunsparce with 3 energy. And then we've got Dudunsparce, of course, with Runaway Draw. Once during our turn, draw 3 cards and then throw that bad boy back into your deck. Also, Land Crush again. I mean, I guess if you can use Land Crush, that would just be dumb. You want to draw and you want to move on. Now let's look at the trainers in here. It's not a Rye-bred Ryan deck without Buddy-Buddy Poffin. I've got 4 of them in there. We really want to focus on getting our bench full, especially with the Dunsparce and Dudunsparce. The cool thing is a lot of times you're going to throw them back into the deck, and then you just use a Buddy-Buddy Poffin and get them right back out there. Right, Earthen Vessel, we need energy in hand, and we're also playing a couple different types of energies. Now that I've got the list updated so that you can see the trainers, you'll see that we also have the energy up there, and I've got different energies. I've got 6 of the dark energies, I've got 2 of the psychic and 2 steel, which are needed. The Hydreigon needs 1 of each of those in order to use its big attack, right? But of course it needs dark energy, and dark at least lets us is the one necessary one so that we're able to use that 200 move, right? So Earthen Vessel helps us get those in hand. Then Night Stretcher, letting us be able to grab those back, or any other cards. I've got 4 Night Stretchers in there. Oh no, I'm sorry, I have 3 Night Stretchers. Would have liked 4. Rare Candy, I've got 3 Rare Candy in there because of course we want to evolve into Hydreigon. Ultra Ball, I actually went with 4, very rarely. 3 is usually my sweet spot, but I just felt like I really needed 4 in this deck. I actually messed around with this deck a ton to get it to work, even more than usual, so finally got it going. And then here is the ace spec that I went with, which is Grand Tree. We've got a lot of Pokemon that we're evolving, especially considering the fact that we're going with the Dunsparce. You know, if we can just get a Dunsparce out there, we can choose him to evolve and then and it really helps us cycle when we can keep that Grand Tree out there. So it's really cool to do. And then of course, that's why I'm also playing the 2 Zweilous or whatever it's called. We can choose that one. We'll want to get our Blissey out there. There's all kinds of evolutions in this deck, so the Grand Tree works out really well. All right, bosses orders. What do I got? 3 bosses in here, I think. Yeah, I've got 3 bosses orders. And Crispin, now this is our other really good card to help us cheat in some energies. We're able to attach 2 of them per turn with this, and it helps us get the ones that we need. So this one really helps us. If we've got 2 energies already on our Hydreigon, we can load him up and bring him in, right? And then from there, Iono, 3 Ionos. I do often find myself kind of getting caught with bad hands sometimes. So that's one way to get around that. And of course to get our opponents down too. And the cool thing there is, you know, sometimes when we're doing some of that deck destruction, you know, then it can make them really sad and disheartening when you see that the card they would have drawn is gone and they have like nothing in hand late game. So that's cool. And then Kieran. Now Kieran is one that I really wish I could fit 3. I only was able to fit 2 of them in there for a couple reasons. Our Hydreigon, if we're only hitting for 200, it's not the craziest hit, but that 30 extra damage that we can choose to do if we're able can sometimes be the difference between knocking out some of those basic EXs. So that works. The main thing I often use it for is a switch card. That Blissey has a big retreat cost, so we want to retreat out of the Blissey if possible. If they're not trying to trap that Blissey, then that's fine. We'll be able to just use that and deal 30 more damage. So pretty cool. And then of course our energies, like I said, I have 6, 2, and 2. Strategy for this deck, The real thing that we want to do is get Blissey inactive first. Chansey into a Blissey would be ideal because Chansey, more so Blissey, is going to be able to take a couple hits. It does give you some flexibility if maybe things are going slow. We're not finding our Zweilous, and we're not finding our Hydreigons or rare candies to get into them. You can kind of slowly build up your Blissey with energy while putting one on bench just in case. That's where you're going to want to start, and then maybe I'll do two. And then you can just switch that up to Blissey and help you get a good hand. You know, if you can just get your hand down, that attack is going to hit for 180, plus you're able to draw until you have 6 in hand, right? Let's have a look just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. 180 and then draw until you have 6 in hand, so not bad. And then I took out one of the Hydreigons just so we could get the cool looking one there. It's a nice card. It's a nice card. And then just move your energy around to do what you need to do, right? Strengths, it's got pretty beefy Pokemon. I mean, the Hydreigon is a 330 stage 2, but then Blissey is a 300 stage 1 Pokemon, so not bad. You can combine strength between everything. I think what I mean here is like combine strength. You've got Crashing Headbutt, you've got 180 return, and then you've also got this move which can do something crazy like take 3, even 4 prizers in a turn. Like if they're maybe you've already hit their EX once for 200, they keep it inactive and they've got a couple basics out there. I mean, we're talking about 4 prizers in one turn or more. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of those prizes are Chansey. and you get that. So, well, I will say in terms of strategy too, like swarm bench, but you do always want to do your best to keep at least one space open. You know, if you know that you have some Chansey's prized, because that would be crazy. Like I said, I have not had the good luck to see it, but I mean, just imagine taking 3 prizes and then one of those 3 is a Chansey. You've got, if even one of them's prized, that's a 50% chance, and then now we've got another 50% chance we get heads and get another. Like, it's madness! It's madness! With this deck, so it could happen. And then of course there's also the added disruption in this deck. So this deck is just like, there's a lot going on, but there's, you know, you do have your thing, like you want to be aiming for Obsidian, but you know, there's a lot more disruption we could be doing in there with Crashing Headbutt. You can attack with your Blissey if you have to, and then this whole time we've got these Dudunsparce just rotating in and out of our bench, so pretty fun. Right? Now, weaknesses, as I mentioned, there is a lot going on. Like, there's a lot going on with this deck, especially compared to a lot of the other rogue decks I'm making that are trying to, like, just be really straightforward with one attacker. It doesn't hit particularly hard either. 200 is really the max damage that we're going to do. And Obsidian is nice, but if you are playing against a deck that has bench protection, or you're playing against a deck that has multiple just EXs or is getting their bench evolved, then that 130 is not going to be really worth it to spread that damage, especially for that 4 cost, right? And it is very, very slow to get going. Obsidian, usually you're only going to be able to use that to close out the game. And sometimes never. Like, a lot of times I don't even get this out, you know, and I'm not going to just sit there and not, you know, you're going to attack with Crashing Headbutt and hope to at least get enough disruption here, but it's very slow to get going. And if they could just take out your Hydreigons and, you know, or even your Dinos before they're even getting involved, and you're not finding, you know, that you're not finding your Dunsparce, it's going to be a rough game for you. Some other cards to consider here. My initial version of this deck did have Janine's Secret Art and Binding Mochi, which would, you know, help you do a little bit more damage, get hit a little bit harder out there with the Mochi. Onto our Hydreigon now, he's going to be able to hit for 240, which is not bad. But when I really thought about it, is that really the difference between one-shotting and not? Yeah, on basic EXs it is. But I didn't quite find it worth it. It was still a little bit too slow going, despite being able to attach multiple energies going there. Didn't quite work out. I decided that Crispin was a better route to go, so I eliminated that one, right? So of course we've got the Mochi. If you do want to go Janine's Secret Arts, obviously you're going to put that Binding Mochi in there, but then you're going to have to do other things. Oh, and then you're going to have to put it in Arven so that you can get yourself. It was just, there's already a lot going on in this deck, which is why I took it out. Right, Glass Trumpet's a solid one to use if you want to maybe focus on getting that Blissey out there. Solid move, right? Choose up to 2 of your benched colorless Pokemon, attach a basic energy from your discard pile, as long as you have a Terra Pokemon in play. Hydreigon is a Terra Pokemon, but he himself is not colorless. So you're able to attach to Blissey, which could be useful, but I didn't include that one, just didn't quite have room in there. Now, if we want to really switch up this entire deck and the way it works, you could probably keep in that Glass Trumpet. You'd have to remove a ton of other stuff, and we're going to go with that Terra Orb, so that way we could just get our Hydreigon straight out of our deck. Don't have to use an Ultra Ball to discard any cards in hand or anything like that. And then from there, you're probably going to want to go with the Sparkling Crystal. That's going to make your job a lot easier if you're going to want to get out that Obsidian attack. You're only going to need 3 energy. You're only going to need 2 or 3 different types. I mean, I guess in essence, you would only need two different types. You could get 2 dark and 1 of the other. So that's not bad. That can help you a lot. But again, I didn't think it was as good as the Grand Tree, because we've only got this once, and then after it's gone, it's gone. Whereas the Grand Tree could potentially be out all game. Although, you know, I do understand that a lot of people are playing stadiums nowadays, and they can just boom, get it out of there too. So it's something to consider. Now from there, if you're going to play the Sparkling Crystal Terra Orb packages, you may as well play Knockdown. Maybe you're going to play this as a kind of pseudo draw engine, rather than playing the Dunsparce. Might be a little bit more consistent. Maybe even you're going to throw in at least a basic Terra Pokemon that you're going to grab with this Terra Orb, just to make it a little bit easier. And then maybe throw in a Fan Rotom as well, Fan Rotom or 2, so you could just load up with these 100 HP or less. I mean, shoot, you could even keep this one in and go with the Dunsparce, load up on them. The thing about this that doesn't quite work, unfortunately, with the Chansey, we're 10 HP short. It would be nice if we could grab a Chansey, but it is 3 colorless with 100 HP or less. The Chansey, unfortunately, does have 110 HP. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of the Hawks Pokemon Nest. Hope you enjoyed this video with this kind of blissful and gone deck, as I will refer to it, with Blissey and Hydreigon, and then special guest appearances by Dudunsparce. If you liked what you saw, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can become part of the Hawks Nest, a fabulous flock of fearless folks who love to do what we love. I love making these crazy rogue decks. I've got plenty more in the pipeline for you all. Make sure that you're leaving some comments. You know, let me know, what are some decks that you want to see? What are some of these kind of more obscure Pokemon that you see the cards, right? That there's some cards that they've got some potential. You just need some madman like me to make a deck out of it. I'm very interested. I love making these decks. Of course, I do try to focus more on those kind of OG, old school Pokemon, which is what I grew up on, but I'm willing to make a deck out of anything. Give me the card and I will do it. So let me know in the comments, and then maybe after that, if you're not quite ready to fly yet and you're just hitting that like button and leaving a comment, eventually maybe you will be ready to fly and you'll hit that subscribe button and join us in the Hawks Nest. But regardless of how you feel about all of that stuff, we're gonna see you next time.